Let's go through the 8 books that I read in September. Some of them were very spooky, some of them were absolute bangers, some of them left me feeling confused in many ways. In ways that I feel I need to talk to you guys about. Oh, my hand hurts. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sinead and this is my spooky corner of YouTube, where I talk about the spooky books that I've read, the spooky films that I watch, the spooky shenanigans that I get up to day to day. I generally do whatever Black Phillip tells me. He will guide my hand. I got through 8 books in September and it was a good reading month. I was trying to build up as much as I could on the run up to October, the spookiest month of the year. And given that I did have a bit of burnout at the end of the month, where I just sat in silence and stared at a wall for a while, this was pretty good.
Funny story, people. It was actually 9 books. Yep, 9. The burnout I referred to did enter my brain, apparently, while filming this. So there's a little add-on section at the end of this video where I reveal the 9th book. And it's worth sticking around for because it was interesting.
We are now into October and it's important for us to leave September behind to make room for all of the spooky shenanigans we all want to get up to. But I'm hoping today you'll find a couple of books that you can add to your Halloween TBR because there were some really good spooky ones in there, great for this time of year. Let us waste no more time, me. The first book completed in September was an audiobook. It is We Live Here Now by Sarah Pinborough. The book tells the story of a couple, Emily and Freddie. A freak accident has nearly killed Emily in the past, but she is on the road to recovery and they have decided to move to a new property in Dartmoor in England. A lovely country house, really quite opulent for them, and they feel this will be the fresh start that they need and maybe help them recover their somewhat crumbling marriage. We hear Emily's perspective mostly, as well as some excerpts from Freddie, and also a crow that is circling around the house having lost its mate. And the crow chapters, it soon becomes apparent that Emily and Freddie both have secrets from each other. We don't know exactly what they are. There's a lot of mystery around the accident that affected Emily, and she is still recovering from the devastating injuries that she suffered. But when she's alone in the house, she starts to notice noises. She starts to sense there is a presence there, something not quite right. And she's trying to communicate this with Freddie and is meeting some resistance. But she's also talking to some of the new neighbours, her old friends, and we are wondering whether or not any of these sounds and noises are in her head, are they being constructed by someone else, or really is there something terribly wrong with the property? I know this sounds like the setup of every haunted house book you've ever read, but this really is a solid spooky story with a very good thriller at its heart. It has its twists, it has its turns, and the story unfolds at a very good pace. Sarah Pinborough keeps enough information back and also gives her characters a lot of very good nuance and morally grey emotions all the way through. So we are invested in the story and we're invested in seeing what is the real truth behind each of the characters. And there are some very weird things that go on, and it does build to quite the climax and quite the reveal. This is an inventive story, it has out there moments, but overall I thought it was executed well. The characters, as I said, are not all likeable and they're not supposed to be, and I quite enjoy that in a story. I don't like two-dimensional people in a thriller because you just get impatient with, oh for goodness sake, can we get to the big twist? This kept me hooked for long enough. And all the chapters told from the perspective of a crow, I mean, obviously that's going to win my heart. And those were really affecting. They were really, really good framing devices for each of the chapters and for the stories of the characters. Those crow segments were lovely. Really a highlight of the book for me, and it's not just because I'm obsessed with crows. I rated this a 4-star and I might nudge it up to a 4.5 because it takes a lot for a thriller to really blow me away. But this was inventive, it was creative, it was well-rounded, and I think it would satisfy a lot of people who like their thrillers with a spooky twist. Next up was the novella Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw. I am a fan of Cassandra Khaw. I've read their other works, Library at Hellebore, which was out this year, and The Salt Grows Heavy, and I enjoyed those books a lot. Cassandra Khaw, as I've said before in this channel, has a very particular writing style. It's very lyrical, it's very dreamy, as well as being very dark and twisted and quite brutal at points. Nothing But Blackened Teeth was their first novel, and I've seen people either really like or absolutely hate this book, and I get it. If you're not a fan of Cassandra Khaw's writing, you won't like this. This probably won't be for you. If you are a fan of theirs, this is fine. It's absolutely fine. It's a story of 5 friends who want to spend the night in a haunted manor house. The twist here is the manor house is in Japan. It is an old crumbling manor from the Heian dynasty, and it has lots of legends and lore associated with it. They tell stories of a ghost bride who is always looking for revenge or their next lover. They wonder if there are bones buried beneath the soil. These 5 friends come to have this haunted house evening, and of course shenanigans will shenanigan. This was a quick read. It had some lovely visual imagery through it, but overall it was a bit of a confused story. It hinges on these 5 friends, and I don't know why these 5 friends were friends anymore. They all have past grievances or pasts with each other that gets a little bit confused and convoluted, and really, why would they all be there hanging out, and why are they all best friends and also hate each other? The ghost story at the heart of the book I enjoyed. I liked the way it played out. It had tense moments and it had lovely imagery in it, but overall the characters, I just couldn't connect with them, and it was hard to follow their plot. It was hard to follow the various grievances and affections that they have for each other and then don't have for each other, and then who was doing who in what year. That sort of let it down. Without that, this would have just been a stronger ghost story. If you like Cassandra Core's work, it's worth reading. You will get through it in an afternoon, and I didn't mind it. If you don't like their work, why would you read this? If you're new to Cassandra Core, I would suggest starting with another one. I would suggest with The Salt Grows Heavy, which I adored. Nothing But Blackened Teeth, it was a 3.5 for me, because I like Cassandra Core's work, so I liked the book, even though I don't think the plot was very strong. Next up, a book that I devoured in a day and was pretty shook by. It's Strange Pictures. This is by Yuketsu, the YouTuber, who I did not know of before I read this book, but now I do. So this is actually a collection of stories that are all connected in the end, but the twist with this book is that there are pictures in the book with puzzles in them that you sort of have to solve. The story will solve them, but as you're looking at them, it gives you something to do. It gives you an extra kind of, an extra layer of intrigue. You've got a series of drawings that a woman made just before she died. You have a child's drawings at school that a teacher is interpreting differently from the parents' interpretation. You have a murder mystery, a very brutal murder, where pictures were left at the crime scene. And all of the stories in the book connect in some way. I wasn't aware when I went into this book how dark the stories got. They get dark and brutal and what? And I really, really enjoyed the way they were all connected in the end. I think really as a collection of short stories with a common thread and a big denouement, this absolutely worked for me. The puzzles, the pictures in them, mostly fine. A couple of them I thought it was a bit tacked on. There was one story with a really, really strong mystery at its heart, and the picture was kind of, okay, fine. I don't really buy that would have happened, but it didn't detract from me wanting to know what happened at the end of this. And as I said, I devoured it in a day. I rated this 4 stars in the end because I really enjoyed the stories. I liked how dark and twisting they got. And it didn't get full 5 stars because some of the puzzles were a little bit of a letdown. I think they detracted from the story. But overall, good fun. I realise I've been holding the books the whole time, but I'll probably just stick with the things on screen, wherever it is I put them. Then I read a book that's been on my list for a little while. It's The Ballad of Black Tom. This is a reimagining, a retelling of the H.P. Lovecraft story, The Horror at Red Hook. This takes that original story, that takes the bones of the original story by Lovecraft and reframes it from the perspective of a black musician. Charles Tester, who is busking and a bit of a hustler, trying to put food on the table, is approached by a mysterious man who asks him to attend a party at his house and play music because he's going to have a gathering of people there. Charles agrees to this. At the same time, he's targeted by a detective and a police officer as he makes his way through Harlem. What unfolds is a story of cults, of the occult, of otherworldly horrors, and of racism. I've mentioned my thoughts on this book already in my spooky season TBR because this was on a list and I'd actually finished it by the time I'd made that video. But yet again, I will state, I thought this was a really enjoyable story, a short novella. It was taut, it was compelling, It was really nice character study for such a short book, really. And yeah, the horror at the end was quite chilling. I'm not a Lovecraft fan generally. I'm not a massive fan of cosmic horror. I've never been that much into that world, though I completely understand the influence that the worlds that Lovecraft created had on horror writers for decades after his work was published, and that those writers don't necessarily agree with his principles because H.P. Lovecraft himself was an appalling person with appalling views. So even though The Ballad of Black Tom was not my normal genre, I really did appreciate the writing style and the care that was taken with the story, revisiting it, reframing that original story, which isn't a great story, to be honest. I rated The Ballad of Black Tom 4 stars. Quick microphone change there, so if the sound is different, it's because it is. Next up was a big book for the horror community because it was the latest book by Silvia Moreno Garcia. It is The Bewitching. I started this going, I'm not sure, then loved it, then went, ended up loving it. Mostly. The Bewitching is historical fiction, it is horror, it is witchcraft in the darkest sense, and it's got traces of dark romance in there, which I will come on to. The plot of The Bewitching is a big one. You have 3 different timelines and you have 3 different female protagonists narrating. You have Minerva in the 1990s. She is a postgrad student studying at a university in Massachusetts. She is studying a female horror writer whose seminal work, The Vanishing, was all about the disappearance of her friend in college. You also have the story of Minerva's great-grandmother Alba back in 1908 in Mexico. Alba detailing what happened when her brother went missing and her family seemed to be cursed by a bewitching. And in the 1930s, you have the story of Beatrice Tremblay, Betty, who is the writer that Minerva is researching. You have her perspective of what happened when her friend went missing. Still with me? Good. These stories, as you can imagine, all intertwine and they connect. There is a common thread through each of them about people suspecting that they may have been cursed by a witch, that they may have been bewitched. You have the old legends back with Alba in the early 1900s. You have the cynical, cool, yet heartbroken observation of Betty watching as her dear, dear friend Virginia, who she really likes, disappears without a trace, and Virginia displaying strange tendencies before she vanishes, convinced that something has cursed her. And then you have Minerva in the 90s, focused, sensible, committed to her studies, and asking the right questions of people who were connected to Betty and to Virginia, and using her own grandmother's memories and the lessons she taught her to try and unravel this decades-old mystery, and also maybe to avoid being bewitched herself. If you love historical fiction and you like some horror, some witchiness with it, I think you will really enjoy this book. Be warned that the witches in this book are not nice. No, we haven't got fluffy, lovely witches. We haven't got women reclaiming their power as witches. No, witches do not F about in this book. When you start this book, it may take you a second to get into it because you start with Minerva's chapter, her storytelling in the 90s, but trust me, stick with it. The way each chapter is written perfectly reflects the narrator that is telling you the story. Now, that may sound like an obvious statement, but the tone of voice used in each chapter changes. So with Minerva's chapters, you've got a lot of focus, a lot of attention to detail. I got the sense that Minerva was neurodiverse because of the way she explains things and the way she's almost emotionless, and she's very focused on detail and getting things right, and that enables her to move through the story without getting caught up in a lot of emotion. But then you shift to chapters from Alba back in 1908, and when Alba is a young woman, and they feel flighty, they feel light, they feel sort of girlish and full of hope and wonder. The language changes, and I think that's a rare skill for an author to get right. A lot of the time when you've got multiple perspectives, you sort of have the prose staying the same and they rely on the dialogue just to convey what that character is trying to convey and trying to storytell. Whereas in this book, you really get a sense of the character in the prose. Again, with Betty's chapters, because she's writing this in a journal and she's reflecting back at what happened, you get a sense of her worldliness, her sadness, her cynicism, her reflecting on the mistakes that she made. Because you open with Minerva, it does feel a little bit academic and a bit, oh, okay, this is very businesslike, what we're going to do. But trust me, once you get into those other chapters, I hope that you would feel the shift, the change in character. Minerva isn't a barrel of laughs, though what happens around her is quite compelling. But then the further you get into it and you hear from Alba and then you hear from Betty, oh, it is a very very good story. What is happening back in Mexico with this bewitching, with these strange, very dark things happening around her. And then this mystery with Betty, with her friend Virginia. What happened to her? What happened in their friendship group? All these hints of intrigue. I will say 2/3 of the way through the book, I felt it drag a little bit. While Minerva's chapters feel authentic for her voice, it can be hard to love her, to really care about what's happening to her, because she's such a blank slate, because she's sort of so emotionless in many ways. I certainly felt that with her. But you want to know what happened with Alba, you desperately want to know what happened to Betty's dear friend Virginia, and you want to know how this is all going to tie together in the end. Now, I said there's a dark romance element to this book, and there is. I am going to give you no detail about what that is, because it's impossible to even mention who it affects, who it's involved with, without it feeling like a spoiler and without you kind of like having your eyes on Stalks. I think from the start, you're meant to feel uncomfortable about the possible setup of this. There are scenes in it that reminded me of Nosferatu, of this sort of darkness, this sort of relationship, and they were really, really well written, while I had the ick the whole time. Anyone else who's read The Bewitching, put spoiler all in your comments so no one else gets it. I'm confused, and it's, yeah, another reviewer went Nosferatu. That may be enough to hook you in and want to read it. Overall, I really enjoyed The Bewitching. I think it's very good for autumn, for fall. 4.5 star for me. I may end up rounding it up to a 5 star. It did have a dip in it. It did have a drag that I could have done without. But very satisfying conclusion. My second audiobook of September was my 1 5-star of the month. It was The Weight of Blood. The Weight of Blood is a retelling, a reimagining of Carrie by Stephen King. The book opens with podcast episodes that are examining the story behind a massacre at a school several years earlier. At this school, we have a student, Maddie. Maddie, who is quiet, who has been the subject of bullying all her life, and one day her secret is revealed in front of her classmates. Maddie has been hiding the fact that she is biracial, and when her classmates discover this, she is unfortunately subjected to ridicule by other girls in her class. While there are black students at the school, they are far outnumbered by the white students, and bizarrely the school still practices a segregated prom, because that's the way things have always been in the town. The bullying incident of Maddie is recorded in secret by a student, and it is released to the world, and it goes viral. The school has all sorts of attention on it for the wrong reasons, for everyone pointing out that maybe it's a school full of horrible racists. At the same time, Maddie is discovering that she has hidden powers inside of her and is enduring a miserable home life with her father, who does not want anyone to know that she is biracial and wants her to live as a white girl. We get the story of Maddie, we get different perspectives of different students in the school. Kenny, who is the star football player, a black boy who is in a relationship with a white girl and hangs out with her white friends. The popular girls in Maddie's class, some of whom feel bad for Maddie and some of whom feel like they have nothing to apologise for and feel like she is ruining their time at school. The school, the faculty, the students are trying to find ways of repairing their reputation, while Maddie is also trying to find ways of existing in the world as herself, and also how to control the powers that are bubbling up inside of her and how to quell the rage that is coming out. If you have read the book, Carrie, or even if you've seen the film, you know where this is going, but trust me, this book still takes you in different directions and plays with everyone's knowledge, potential knowledge of the original story, and twists it on its head in very, very clever ways. This is a story about racism, about prejudice, about what prejudice looks like to different people of different social status from different backgrounds. While the subject matter is serious, it's got slasher vibes to it. It's got an entertainment value while balancing out quite serious messaging underneath it. This is a story that easily could have strayed into over-the-top melodrama and heavy-handed use of metaphor and all sorts of things to sort of portray the injustices taking place in the book. But really it feels like the author, Tiffany Jackson, knew exactly that what she had was enough. What she had was enough, and there was no need to overplay the hand, to do too much over-the-top melodrama with it. There's actually references to things like Imitation of Life, of melodramatic films in there. There are very good, well fleshed out, multiple characters through it. Not just Maddie, you've got Kenny, the boyfriend, you've got the girls at school, the bitchiest ones, the most popular girls, the ones who are trying to sort of show that they are on the side. So much virtue signaling is going on in there. there. And the book, as a result, is much more than Maddie's story. Maddie is the linchpin in it, and it's very exciting to see what will happen with her powers and what direction it's going in, because we know from the start, from this podcast, that a massacre took place. There was a terrible, terrible incident. But it's also a story about the other characters, and their home lives and their feelings and their thoughts are well fleshed out and nicely balanced without it ever going too heavy-handed, too broad, too cliched. I just really appreciated the way that this story played out and every element of it tied together beautifully by the end. It was such an enjoyable listen as well. Such a good audiobook. The reason I picked this up is that everyone said this is a great audiobook, and they're absolutely right. The podcast bits, the voice acting through it, the nuance of every different character's individual voice. I loved it. I love this book. I know I'm babbling here. It's just so satisfying when you get a good, enjoyable, thrilling, well executed story, and particularly a good audiobook. So The Weight of Blood, please get it in your life. From the horrors of high school, we go to the horrors of Irish mythology. I picked up, finally, Knock Knock Open Wide. This is a book that's been on my shelf for a while. I've seen many people jumping into the comments of previous videos where I've mentioned this, going, oh, you're going to enjoy it. And my God, you were right. This book was what was this? I did a mini review of this on Shorts, but Knock Knock Open Wide is a complex, rich story of two timelines. It is a mystery. It is a murder mystery. It is a horror story, 100% a horror story. And it is a tale of Irish mythology, of Ireland, of Irish legend, of so much in there. It's hard to describe. With the two timelines you have at the end of the 70s, 1979, a young woman, 18, goes to a party, gets proposed to by her lovely boyfriend and sort of says yes on a whim. And then when she's driving home from this party, she finds a corpse in the road. And this is linked to an old Irish legend that I was reading about recently. She finds a corpse in the road. She decides to take it to a nearby farmhouse. The action cuts to the farmhouse. Inside, the farmer and his wife seem to have made some sort of bargain. Something is going on in that house. They are waiting for something to turn up. It doesn't seem like such a surprise when 18 turns up with this corpse. And as she's at the farmhouse, weird stuff happens. 18 has been missing for a fair few days, and this has been national news. But then she is discovered, she is rescued, and it is believed that her captors have vanished. That's just the opening bits. You've also got notes from an Irish journalist who was investigating the story. Then flash forward to the late 90s, early 2000s, where you have got 18's daughter, Aisling, who is at university. And a beautiful young woman joins a university and is trying to make friends and meets Aisling and falls for her, falls madly in love. The two of them fall for each other. They develop this relationship, but Aisling wants to keep her lover at arm's length because she is worried about her discovering her home life and her mentally unstable mother. 18 did not recover well from what happened to her, and also more terrible things have befallen the family in the intervening years. And they also have a theory that it all could be linked to a children's TV show that's been running for many, many years. That is the blurb on the back of this book, fleshed out a tiny bit, but that's what you're going in for. This book was wild. It had brilliant moments of very creepy horror, very well visualized. It is winding and confusing at parts, and a very WTF kind of feel where you're going, what's happening? But it is very skillfully written, and it drags you through it. Not kicking and screaming, just kind of like you're dragged through a dark corridor going, no, I'm happy to go and be scared, but I don't like it. It's got very heartfelt moments of the relationship between Aisling and Betty. There is a love story at the heart of this, and it is absolutely loaded up with references to Irish mythology, Irish lore. There's a lot of uses of the Irish language in this. I don't speak Irish. I was never taught it, so I was constantly messaging my friend because I was reading it going, how do you pronounce this? And the translation, yeah. It gives you the translations in the book, but it was just me kind of going, what that was, I don't know. And it's a book that ultimately feels much bigger, that there is a bigger world and a bigger story going on. It lost half a star for me purely because I think with so much going on there were a couple of character threads that weren't fully fleshed out and didn't need to be in there. I don't think they needed to be in there, but that is me nitpicking very much, of me going, did that entirely work? when the rest of the story was grand. But really, overall, a very inventive story. If you want something with mythology, if you want something with lore, if you want something with references to the fairies, to all manner of things, stuff that you'll know and stuff that you never knew before, check out Knock Knock Open Wide. Knock Knock Open Wide was 4.5 stars. What a series of bangers those were, but I finished the month with a disappointment, and it's gonna hurt because if I hold this up, some of you are gonna go, no. So this is What Stalks the Deep. This is the third book in the Sworn Soldier series by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is an author I adore. I love their works. I've loved so many of their fairy tale retellings. And the first book of this, What Moves the Dead, the retelling of the fall of the House of Usher, loved it. Absolutely love it and will never stop recommending it. Since What Moves the Dead, there have been 2 more books in the Sworn Soldier series, so called because they all follow the adventures of Sworn Soldier Alex Easton. A Sworn Soldier is non-binary. In this latest adventure, Alex and their trusty companion Angus go to America and meet up with their old friend Dr. Denton, who we met in What Moves the Dead. They are called in to investigate, as it were, this mysterious disappearance of someone at a mine in America. This deep mine where strange things have been happening. While it's always a pleasure to be in Alex Easton's company, I didn't love this book in particular. I thought the story was the weakest amongst the Sworn Soldier series for me, even though it was creative and inventive. And it's hard to talk about what the horrors are in this book without giving away the plot because, you know, it's quite a short book and you're sort of building up to what's happening in here. I'd heard the title, What Stalks the Deep, and was thinking, oh, are we going deep sea? And then when I heard it was a mine in America, and I was thinking, okay, old Appalachia, is there going to be something weird and strange? Just nothing that I'd hoped would happen in this book did happen, and maybe that's too high expectations. I think that the story we got was just fine. It wasn't for me. Was just quite weird. It is funny and it is witty and there's good moments in this book for sure, but just the story overall, I was okay. If you are a fan of this series, I would say pick it up just for completion. 3-star because it's well written and good characters, but the central story, while well crafted, was not for me. Hello, spooky darlings. Yes, I'm jumping in here because I completely forgot about one extra book that I read in September. I could have saved this over for October, but no, I could never lie to you people. And I didn't want you guys to miss out on this one because it was a riot. I listened to an audiobook, Best Hex Ever by Nadia El Fassi. Now, this was described to me as a cozy, witchy book with a little spice, a little romance in there. And this was adorable and also very, very spicy. It is the story of a young witch who knows of her powers, and she has a lovely life. She runs a coffee shop. Oh my god, it's so cute. Oh, it's so lovely. And she has very close friends. She's going to go to the wedding of one of her best friends, but she feels that she has been cursed by a hex, by one of her exes. This latent witch had put a hex on her that would ruin any relationship she has going forward, and that seems to have been the case. But into the coffee shop one day walks the most gorgeous man she's ever seen, and honestly, the way he's described, hot. We get the perspectives of both Dina, our kitchen witch, and Scott, the man that she's fallen for. I will tell you, this book starts so cozy, so cute, kitchen witch, cafe, lovely scenery, adorable characters, lovely grown family, found family, and this burgeoning romance. When the spice hit, the spices in this, I was not prepared. And I tell you people, I don't mind spice. I don't mind any kind of erotica. I've read about it extensively. That makes me sound like such a nerd. I've read about these things. I honestly don't mind it in book form, but I don't listen to a lot of it. And I was listening to this on audio while doing my chores, walking down the street. And I kept stopping and going, oh my, out loud going, what? He put what where? She did? Huh? I recommended this book on Instagram just sort of generally because I thought it was just a cozy read. And a couple of people messaged me, including a family member who was saying, oh, I'm going to read this. And then messaged me back going, bloody hell, that escalated quickly. If you enjoy a cozy romance and you don't mind a good old bout of spice in there and some sexy times, go for it. This is lovely. It was really well written and I loved all the characters in it. The plot, absolutely fine. I knew I was just getting into something cute and cozy for the season. And there is a Halloween ritual in it, so it's good for the fall. There you go, enjoy. And this is a message also to content creators out there, anyone who watches the video is a content creator themselves. yourselves. Burnout is real. Sometimes you get absolutely exhausted, you mess stuff up, you make mistakes, but you can always go back and make amends. Hopefully your subscribers will laugh along with you, but take a break when you need to. I think that the spicy book fuddled my brain. I don't know what to do apart from baked goods and lust after men who work in museums now. That's my wrap for September. We have a lot of books to get through for October. Truly spooky, Halloweeny, cozy, snuggly, folly, all of that has to happen. If you're interested in what I'm reading, I've already done a video on my spooky season TBR, and I've also released a video of my recommendations of things that you can read for a truly spooky fall, whether you're looking for cozy vibes or you're looking for scary. I've also got videos in the works with more underrated horror films and spooky season watch lists, all of the TV shows, films, or even just ambient scenes that you should be watching for a truly wonderful spooky season. I do have more crow footage coming. Please like this video, leave a comment with any books that you loved in September, and by all means leave suggestions of videos you would love to see from me this October. Stay spooky, bye-bye.